қай жерді басу керек?
қалай? Рас. Рас.
Да. Қайырлы күн. Құрметті Абай атындағы Қазақ ұлттық педагогикалық университетінің білім алушылары, құрметті қонақтар, құрметті Америка құрама штаттарының Алматыдағы бас консулы Эрик Майер мырза. Құрметті достар, бүгін біз өздеріңіздің алдарыңызда дипломаттар клубының кезекті кездесуін бастап жатырмыз. Уважаемые друзья, сегодня мы здесь проводим очередную встречу клуба дипломатов. И сегодня у нас очень почетный гость. Это генеральный консул Соединенных Штатов Америки в городе Алматы, господин Эрик Майер, очень опытный карьерный сотрудник дипломатической службы. В Алмате господин Эрик Майер работает с сентября 2018 года. До этого работал в Южной Центральной Азии, работал в Камбодже, в Хельсинки, Буэнос-Айресе, в Каире. То есть опыт и география очень широкий, и опыт очень хороший. Сегодня господин Эрик Майер принял наше приглашение, чтобы выступить перед вами вот со своей лекцией, именно за что мы сегодня особенно благодарны. Господин Эрик Майер, еще раз, господин консул, добро пожаловать в наш университет, Казахский национальный педагогический университет имени Абая. Наши студенты с нетерпением ждут вашей лекции, поэтому я долгое время отнимать не буду. Просто дам вам слово. Пожалуйста, начинайте свои лекции. Спасибо.
Thank you very much, Rector Balikbayev, for your warm introduction and also for inviting me here today to speak with all of you. I'd also like to thank Ainur Sabitova for the invitation. It's a great pleasure to be with all of you here, even virtually. I can see many of you on the screen, which is great. Bugün sizlermin boluğa otu konuştumen. C'est un grand plaisir d'être parmi vous aujourd'hui et merci pour l'invitation. It's a great pleasure to be with you here to talk about diplomacy, and it's actually kind of symbolic today doing it from the Sorbonne. Just yesterday, February 3rd, was the day when 29 years ago, the United States opened its embassy in a very then young Republic of Kazakhstan, just over a month after Kazakhstan declared its independence. Right here in Almaty, not far from where we are this moment. So it's great to be here today with a number of you, maybe future diplomats, to speak with you. Now, many things have changed since that time, 29 years ago, 30 years ago. Our partnership is as strong as it was as we celebrate 30 years of U.S.-Kazakhstan friendship and relationship. Actually, our mission, our embassy in Nur-Sultan and our consulate in Almaty together has launched the 30 Years Together campaign in January, where we will be highlighting achievements of our bilateral cooperation through the year. And I hope you all will. I hope you all are already following our social media at USCG Almaty, but you can also follow the hashtag USKZ30, where there's information about this program. The program will conclude on December 25th this year, which was when we established our diplomatic relations with Kazakhstan. So I'm here today to talk with you a little bit about what it's like working as a diplomat. American diplomacy was institutionalized 231 years ago with the creation of the Department of State, our Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I joined the State Department in 2002 and have served in Egypt, Finland, Cambodia, Argentina, and now in Kazakhstan. You know, I came to Kazakhstan for the first time as a tourist in 2004. It made a great impression upon me at that time. I was only here for a few days in Almaty. I traveled into the mountains, went to some museums in Almaty. 5 years later, I came back with my wife, who equally loved Almaty in Kazakhstan, and we really made it kind of a priority to try and find a way to come here to work as diplomats. And so, to be able to serve in Kazakhstan as U.S. Consul General really was a dream come true for me. All of our experiences in each countries are very unique, but I have 2 young daughters, and we've tremendously enjoyed being here in Kazakhstan. You know, diplomacy reveals in many ways that we are closer than we think, and that we're all connected, no matter our differences or our distances. Diplomacy is a profession that teaches you that it's only by coming together and creating people-to-people ties that we are able to fight common challenges and to build a brighter future together. COVID-19 is a good example for that. And as Consul General, last year was an extremely busy year as the pandemic hit many parts of the world. One of the key things that we do as U.S. diplomats is we protect U.S. citizens abroad. And there were many American citizens stranded abroad in many different countries. And we spent a lot of time trying to get American citizens home to the United States. As a matter of fact, as of June 1st, there were 98,000 American citizens that were repatriated to the United States. And in June, we joined our efforts with the Kazakhstani Ministry of Foreign Affairs to bring back 114 Kazakhstani students who were in the United States during the pandemic. And they were able to get back to Kazakhstan relatively quickly. And other Kazakhstanis that were in the U.S. that wished to come home came on that flight. It was very challenging for everyone, but just an example of diplomacy in action. Health diplomacy became frontline news, of course, for everyone. And in the face of the pandemic, the United States has mobilized as a nation to combat the virus, both at home and abroad, committing $6.2 million to support the people of Kazakhstan. Okay, I'm going to say a little bit in French and in Russian, but you know, but before I do that, I will say that that you know there is no day that is alike in working as a diplomat, and especially as Consul General. Our consulate here in Almaty is our only consulate in Central Asia. We have embassies in each of the Central Asian countries, but this is our only consulate. And I think this is reflective of the importance that not only Kazakhstan is to the United States, but also how important Almaty is to the region and to the United States. We view Almaty as not only an economic hub, but a cultural hub. And we have a number of priorities here in Kazakhstan, but one of them is working with Kazakhstan to further diversify and develop its economy and interconnectivity. So, you know, many of you, we don't have a building here in Kazakhstan. We're hoping to build one very soon, which will certainly be a symbol of our permanent symbol of our bilateral relationship. But I did want to emphasize that as we are in this 30th year, that the United States is very committed to Kazakhstan. je suis avec vous ici aujourd'hui pour avoir une vraie conversation, un véritable échange, j'espère. Alors, n'hésitez pas à me poser vos questions en français. Je suis francophone comme vous. Je faisais des études universitaires à Paris comme étudiant d'échange quand j'étais à l'Université de Californie à Berkeley. Vous voyez, nous avons déjà plusieurs langues en commun. Я бы хотел, чтобы у нас с вами получилась самая настоящая беседа. Я буду рад поделиться своим опытом, рассказать о работе дипломата или поговорить на другой теме, которые вас интересуют. Купрахмет. So I'd be glad to elaborate on any of the items that I've discussed. So please go ahead with your questions, and I'm very much looking forward to the discussion today. Thank you.
Құрметті студенттер, құрметті қатысушылар, сұрақтарыңыз болса, қоюларыңызға болады. Уважаемые слушатели, уважаемые коллеги, студенты наши, пожалуйста, задавайте вопросы. Это очень интересно услышать с первых уст о нюансах, о разных деталях вообще дипломатической службы. Пожалуйста.
Hello.
Hi, Alina. Yes, I saw Jean had his hand up and Alina did. So we'll go to Alina first, maybe.
Hello, my name is Alina. I would like to ask you a question. What qualities should have a person as in your position?
What was that?
Вы не могли бы еще раз повторить вопрос?
What qualities should have a person as in your
Yes.
position?
Got it. No, it's a good question. You know, one of the things that we've been talking about, sorry, I wanted to make sure the microphone was on. One of the things that we've been talking about a lot, especially recently at the State Department, you know, I come from a very diverse country, the United States. We speak different languages there. We come from different backgrounds. And one of the things that's important as a diplomat is that, you know, that you're representing the entire country. And so it's important for our diplomatic service to be a diverse diplomatic service. We come from we're a very large country. And so it's an interesting question because I happened to study political science, and I knew that I wanted to become a diplomat when I was a university student. But we have colleagues and diplomats who have studied many different things. And so I would say that there isn't, you know, one course of study that makes one a better diplomat. But in terms of qualities, I would say that flexibility is a key one, and being open-minded. When you are dispatched and sent to different countries, like in my case, you know, Egypt, Finland, Kazakhstan, one has to be open-minded to not only learning about different cultures, because it goes beyond learning languages and cultures, but it really means being open-minded to different views and opinions. And one of the things that we do as diplomats is we explain our country. We explain the United States, its culture and its policies to people, but there are going to be times when you don't always agree. And so being flexible and open-minded, I think, is really a key component to being a successful diplomat. That's a very good question, Alina. Thank you for asking that. Jean, should we go to you?
Yes, I guess. At first, greetings, sir, Mr. Maya. So, the first question that I have now is: do you have a non-governmental organization in our city, in Almaty, and can the students of master degree have an internship or practice in it?
Mm-hmm. So the U.S. mission, through its grant programs, does support and fund some NGOs for specific projects. So we work very closely with NGOs around the world and here in Kazakhstan. And I will add, just since you mentioned NGOs, that non-governmental organizations are an extremely important part of society. They play an important role in raising issues and bringing awareness to issues, and also doing a lot of hands-on work, often with many important causes. So they play an important role in democracies. We have had internships at the State Department, at the U.S. consulate at different times. We're in a tough situation right now where even our permanent staff are mostly working from home. We're kind of in and out of the office. I do hope in the future we will have and offer internships. I was an intern twice, once at the U.S. Embassy in Bangkok and at the U.S. Embassy in Manila in the Philippines. I'm a big supporter of internships. It's a great way kind of to explore a career and see if it's right for you. And I think you learn a lot. Not only does it benefit the employer, but the participant benefits as well. So do keep an eye on our website and our Instagram, USCG Almaty, for opportunities in the event that we do offer them as we kind of get through the pandemic. You had one other question, right, Jean? Yeah.
Yeah. At first, let me tell the kind word of welcoming in our city, in general Kazakhstan. I'm sorry about not mentioning it. And the second one, does the students of, for example, our university, Sorbonne, Kazakhstan, have the possibility to take an internship in the consulate of US in Almaty right now? I mean, exactly at this moment from pandemic.
At an internship at the consulate right now?
Yep.
Yeah. At this time, we don't. It's possible that we might consider it, in the summer, but we don't have anything at this time. We do have job opportunities that we do announce periodically, but we don't have an internship right now. But I hope that we will soon. We've had them in the past in our public affairs section, for example. What you just, if you don't mind, Jean, I'll just say a little bit more about our consulate here in Almaty. We operate in two different buildings. We have a large number of employees at the consulate. In most embassies and consulates, you have a political and economic section, which we have. So we have an economic and political officer they do reporting on political and economic events in our consular district, which is all of southern Kazakhstan. So I'm here in Almaty, but I'm the U.S. Consul General for all of southern Kazakhstan. So I travel to Shymkent, Kislodarda, and other regions. We also have other U.S. government agencies that work at the consulate, including the CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control. You can imagine how busy that office has been during the pandemic. My colleagues at the CDC at the consulate work very closely with the Ministry of Health and the Almaty Department of Health. USAID, this is the U.S. Agency for International Development. They actually have their regional office here in Almaty. And then DEA is the Drug Enforcement Agency. So they are also here in Almaty. And then, of course, we have our public affairs section, our consular section. They do visas and passports, and our management section, which run the administrative part of the consulate. So keep your eye open if there are internship opportunities in the future. And Jean, what we can do is if we do have internships, we'll be sure to share the details with Ainur and others at the university here when those opportunities arise.
Much obliged, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Adi, yes, I see a hand raised. Yeah.
Okay. First of all, it's a great pleasure to meet you, sir. I want to address a few quite off-topic questions, as I think, well, they're mostly like hot events that are happening in Russia. Like the first one is like, how would you react about the events that are related to Russia, Navalny, the meetings, and everything that what is happening there?
Well, part of my responsibility here in Kazakhstan is to focus on events in Kazakhstan. So my colleagues in Russia would be happy to comment on the events in Russia. Obviously, I've been viewing it with great concern as an individual. But I won't comment on events in Russia, if that's okay.
Oh, it's okay. It's
sure.
All right.
Do you have another question, Adi?
Yes, and it's again like Russia related, but I'm looking forward to becoming a diplomat. So these are the questions that like get me the most, like personally.
Mm-hmm.
So there are few deputies and like officials in Russia. They're like, like the Kazakhstan is on the verge of being like pro-West and pro-East because we have like good relations with all the countries in the world. But there were like few officials in Russia that were saying that the USA is somehow trying to like, separate the Central Asia, basically like Kazakhstan from Russia and its influence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is one of the major questions to
Sure.
a diplomat, in my opinion.
Sure, that question I'd be happy to answer and take. And you're right. I mean, by nature of Kazakhstan's size, I mean, you're the 9th largest country in the world. You share a very long border with Russia.
With plenty countries.
With a number of countries and China. And so that topic and question often comes up. And, our view, and Kazakhstan, I think, has done this very well. I mean, they've made it clear that they want to have excellent relations with all of their neighboring countries and with the United States. Kazakhstan had a successful tenure on the UN Security Council for 2 years. But our goal here in Kazakhstan is to focus on our bilateral relationship and to on a business side offer the best of the United States. And so we view, for example, that working with American companies offers unique opportunities for Kazakhstan. And the United States has already invested a lot of money in Kazakhstan. And so our relationship is economic, it's cultural, and there are a lot of ways to build on the already excellent relationship that we have with Kazakhstan. So it's not so much a competition, but it's making clear and to Kazakhstanis who we are as a people and what we can offer to Kazakhstan. And our as I said, our bilateral relationship is very strong in a number of spheres. And the other thing related to your question, Adi, is that we believe that regional connectivity is extremely important. And so President Obama introduced the C5+1 platform, which is the 5 Central Asian countries in the United States. And so we believe that when countries can work together to solve issues and challenges, that it's much more efficient and better. And so this is something that we care a lot about, and it's a long process, but it's still a priority. Obviously, we have a new administration in Washington that has only been in office for 3 weeks, but I know that Central Asia will continue to be a priority as it was in the Obama administration and in the Trump administration. We were really happy to have, during my time here, we had the Secretary of Commerce come to Kazakhstan and the Secretary of State last year. And you may have seen, just at the end of last year, we had the Assistant Secretary of State, Marie Royce, come not only to Nur-Sultan, but also to Almaty. So again, Kazakhstan plays a very important role in the region and bilaterally.
Yeah.
Who else has a question? Thank you, Adi,
Thank you so much.
May I, Mr.
Thank
Meyer?
you much, sir.
Thank you.
May I,
Yes, go
Mr.
ahead.
Meyer?
Mm-hmm.
Good afternoon. My name is Martina. What kind of advantages and disadvantages of being diplomat?
Well, that's another good question. There are lots of advantages. From travel to learning languages, I've been in a position where our foreign ministry has trained me in several languages, getting to move to different countries. I tend to focus more on the positives. I have an 8-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old daughter. They are, how can I say this? Almost in a living classroom, right? So they're American, but they're here in Kazakhstan. They're learning every day. They go to school. They're learning about Kazakh culture through their curriculum. They have friends from Kazakhstan. On the weekends, we go to museums and explore the city. So they're getting an education about Kazakhstan and Central Asia that they would not get if they were in the United States. So I think there are a lot of great benefits individually and for families. To me, the only or the main downside is being far from family. My parents are elderly. They're in California. My brother and sister are there. They don't get to see us as often as we like, and it's obviously hard to travel. The pandemic makes it even worse. But so I think the main disadvantage is being far from family. But luckily, my parents like to travel. My mom has actually been here twice already, and my in-laws have been here as well. And my parents are coming together, hopefully in May or June. So we'll get to see them, because I'm anxious to show my father Almaty and Kazakhstan, because it really is a unique place. I was in a meeting yesterday with a local journalist and businessman. And when I walk out of my house, I look up at the mountains every day before I get in the car, and I'm still awestruck at the beautiful mountains and view that we have here in Almaty. This is such a unique city and environment. So very special place to be. Thank you for that question.
May I?
Please.
Hello, my name is Salina. I'm a freshman student of the Faculty of International Relations. And first of all, I would like to say thank you to you for sharing your priceless time with us and giving us opportunity to ask you questions. And my question is, what is the most challenging part of becoming a diplomat?
Well, I think, each country has its own mechanisms for becoming a diplomat. In the United States, you have to take a written exam, and then there's an oral exam and other security background checks. I think that for me, the main challenge is the time it takes to get into the diplomatic service. There are, on average, about 20,000 people who take the foreign service exam, the diplomatic exam, and in the end, it varies year to year depending upon how much money Congress allocates. But sometimes it's 200 to 1,000 that join every year. So it's a quite a small number that go through the process to become a diplomat. So it takes time. And I think that's the main challenge. As I said before, I think, I wouldn't be so focused on a particular course of study. I think, that history and political science are good foundations. We have a lot of diplomats in the U.S. Foreign Service that have degrees in art, some that are lawyers, so that there are a lot of different things that one can study. I think having an aptitude for foreign language is also really key, and that's a challenge also, keeping up the foreign languages. So, thank you,
very
Good
Alina.
afternoon, Mr. Maya. My name is Lekebay Bagdavlat. So this is my question to you. In your opinion, who was the most successful president in the history of United States America, and why?
That is an interesting question. Historians. Oh, can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, historians spend a lot of time, ranking presidents, and they look at a lot of different criteria. I actually have a goal, and I'm not nearly there yet. But my goal personally is to read a biography of every United States president. So far, I've read about 20, and I've been to some presidential museums and libraries. But that's a really hard question to answer because I think it depends on the time and the circumstances. Obviously, President George Washington, did something very special, right? I mean, he was elected president, and he stepped down, and he said, we're going to have another election, and it's going to, another president will be elected. I mean, and that was a very kind of special moment in our history because the peaceful transfer of power and the ability of citizens to elect their leader is very special. There are a number of presidents that I respect very much. Abraham Lincoln. We have at my house. My kids have a placemat. We're like when we're eating just casual dinner, and it's a placemat of all the presidents. And my oldest daughter Amelia likes going through and I don't know. There are a lot of presidents that I don't know a lot about. We had one president. I was just talking with my team about President William Henry Harrison. He was only president for 1 month, 4 weeks. He gave a very long inaugural address. We always swear in our presidents in the winter. He caught pneumonia and then he died. So there are a lot of interesting facts about our presidents. But it's a tough question to answer. I think we can look back at all of our presidents and find policies and ways that they worked with Congress that that were positive, to highlight, you know, positive aspects of them. Who has another question?
Excuse me, may I ask a question?
Sure, Nikita, go ahead.
So thank you very much for sharing your time with us. And my question is, what has motivated you to become a diplomat?
So when I was a high school student, I went to Argentina to study Spanish for 3 months. I lived with a family in Argentina, and I met a diplomat at the American embassy, and you know, up until then, I really didn't know what what foreign service officers, what diplomats did. I mean, I knew kind of on a general level. And then a year later, I went with my high school in Los Angeles. I grew up in Southern California, in Los Angeles. And in my senior year in high school, I graduated high school in 1990. We went in December of 1989 to the Soviet Union. We went to Moscow and we went to Leningrad. And when I was in Moscow, we met with a political officer at the American embassy. And that really kind of reinforced my the seed and interest to become a diplomat. The idea of being able to represent your country and to explain your country to others seemed like an incredible opportunity. The diplomat that I spoke with in Moscow in 1989, you can imagine this is during, you know, Soviet times when there was not a lot of information about the United States. So I thought this individual is in a really unique role to share information with citizens of the Soviet Union. And so I graduated high school and started my studies at Berkeley. And at that point, I knew that I wanted to become a diplomat, and I chose political science and went from there. I think one of you had asked, you know, about some of the challenges. You know, one thing that you have to do as a diplomat is that you're always representing the American people, and you're representing whoever is in the White House. And so even when you might disagree with a particular policy, you always have to keep in mind that your job there as a civil servant, you know, we are not elected officials. We're part of the executive branch, and civil servants is that you're representing the entire country. And sometimes, you know, that's a positive, and it can present challenges too. But I think there's no other job that's like this. And representing the United States in particular offers unique opportunities as well, because we have a presence in almost every country in the world, with the exception of a few with which we don't have diplomatic relations. So thank you, Nikita. Any other questions about being a diplomat or about the United States or,
yes, I have.
or our programs? Please go ahead.
So hello, my name is Fatima. I'm studying international relations, and I want to know, do you have any tips or recommendations for students who want to connect their life with diplomacy?
You know, that's a good question. I think, you know, here in Almaty, we have our American space, our maker space in Almaty. And I know things have been challenging with the pandemic, but we hope to resume more regular in-person programming soon. But in the past, diplomats at the U.S. consulate would go to the American space speak, and we have English language discussion clubs. We still have programming, by the way. It's online now. And as a matter of fact, what is the Instagram for the American space? AS Almaty. Okay. Tomorrow, for example, we have a speaker, a philosopher, Stephen Friedman, he's in the United States. He will be speaking at 11 a.m. We record these, so you can always watch them again. But we do have a lot of programming with speakers from the States and elsewhere. But when we get back to more in-person programming, there are always opportunities to meet with American diplomats who come to the space to talk to those who visit. So I think, following our social media, our website is a good way to understand what we're doing. And feel free to write to us. My job as consul general is kind of dual hatted. I do a lot of public events like this. I have regular meetings with business leaders. I meet with the Akim of Almaty often. I've met with Akim Baybek, Sagintayev. So I do a lot of meetings with government officials, but all of my colleagues at the consulate, most of them are available to come and speak as well. So we encourage folks to reach out to us if there's an opportunity to speak. It doesn't always have to be me, and I encourage my team to speak publicly as well. And related to your question too, there are only a number of diplomats, American diplomats, right, in Kazakhstan, but it's equally important for U.S. citizens and Kazakhstani citizens to interact together as well. So when we have English language fellows that come to Kazakhstan to train teachers and to teach English, they are acting kind of as diplomats of the United States in Kazakhstan. And when all of you, if you have opportunities to study in the United States or to go to the United States, you're representing your country in a way as well. So it's not only diplomatic ties that are important, it's people-to-people ties that are extremely important as well. Thank you for that good question. Who else has a question? We're okay on time. I can stay a little longer if there are other questions.
Hello. Sorry, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Good afternoon, dear Mr. Consul. My name is Anita, and my question is, what kind of books or scientific literature would you advise to read to the students who want to work in the area of diplomacy?
So that's a very good question. One of the things that I was interested in was political theory. St. Augustine comes to mind. I mean, there are a number of writers that you can read, I'm sure, in English or Russian. One book, since I'm speaking to the Sorbonne Institute, Alexis de Tocqueville, I actually lent this book to Kamshot, wrote a book about his impressions of the United States and our political system and our institutions. So he came as an outsider to the United States and was observing our democracy. And his reflections, I think, were very interesting to read. You can read it in English and in French. Kenneth Waltz is a very well-known political theorist. He wrote a book of Man, of State, of War. There are a number of, and there are some contemporary political scientists Francis Fukuyama, who has recently published some books on political systems today. He actually just published a couple of books, 2-volume, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So I think he's an interesting political scientist to read. One of my favorite books is also Bowling Alone. This is a book more that's focused about community in the United States. I'm happy to come back and I can share with Ainur some specific suggestions, and then she can email them to you. But that's a great question. Thank you.
Sorry, can I ask?
Sure.
How do you think what qualities a diplomat should possess?
What qualities?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think again, being interested in different cultures and meeting people from all walks of life, I think is important, because as a diplomat, you're not only going to meet with government officials. I said that I meet with the Akeem, and I've met with governors, but that's a small percentage. I meet with business leaders, with students. Here I am today with all of you. So it's really important to be interested in people. And I think also being a good listener is a good skill, because I can't claim to know everything about Kazakhstan. I read about Kazakhstan before I came, and I'm continuing to learn about Kazakhstan. And even when I leave Kazakhstan, I will not be a Kazakhstan expert, but always kind of, searching for more information and paying attention to the details of what people say, I think is important. And being a good listener, by the way, is not only, listening to what people are saying, but also paying attention, like when you're in a meeting, to what people aren't saying. Kind of the Sherlock Holmes approach, if you will. Why aren't they talking about this? So being a good listener is a really good skill. And then, as I said earlier, being open-minded and flexible is really key. I remember when I was a diplomat in Egypt, and I went to a city about 2 or 3 hours south of Cairo, and I was there to speak to some students at a school and present some certificates, and the agenda was really kind of packed. And then the discussion went on longer, and Egyptian hospitality is quite warm, and so being flexible and going with the flow is really important. And when you're a diplomat, you're representing the United States and your country, and so it's always important to keep that in mind. The hospitality here in Kazakhstan is tremendous. I've really enjoyed, many feasts of your delicious cuisine here, not only in Almaty, but when I've traveled. I was in near the Aral Sea, about 5 hours to the west of Kislar, not in Uralsk, but in Aralsk. And had a really wonderful time meeting with some residents of a very small village. And so, getting to meet people outside of the cities also is really special and is important to do as diplomats. So if you do become a diplomat, and if you ever are assigned to Washington, D.C. or some large city, it's really important to go to other parts of the United States, and that's something, as I said earlier, that we're talking about a lot at the State Department, because a lot of Americans, like I'm from California, there are parts of the United States I haven't been to, and it's important to learn as much as you can about your country, and Kazakhstan's a very diverse country as well. Thank you for that.
May I ask?
Question? Please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Bahchan. I'd like to ask about my studies. Can we study in America or USA in the future? For example, I know I am now one course, well, somewhere in the 2 or 3 course. Is this even possible?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, because one of the things that we're trying to do is to increase, to have more students study in the United States. It goes back to what I said earlier ago about the people-to-people ties. And obviously, we're very far from the United States. It's a big commitment for students to whether it's undergraduate or graduate study, to go to the U.S. I mean, obviously there are countries that are a lot closer, but we would like to see more Kazakhstani students choose to study in the United States, even if it's in an exchange program. So there are opportunities. I know the university here has some partnerships with U.S. universities, but even when you're done with your studies, there are ways to go to the U.S. to continue your English language studies, and our Education USA program offers advice and information on studying in the United States. So if you go to our website, there are links that can lead you to information about studying in the United States. And occasionally there are scholarships as well. Any other questions, please? We have
Hello.
Good afternoon.
more minutes. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, may I ask a question? How does United States government solve the problems of illegal immigrants?
Well, that's an important question. And when your colleague earlier was asking about Kazakhstan's relations with its neighbors, with Russia and China, one of the things that I had wanted to mention is that border security is very important. Just last week, you may have seen this on our social media. I went to your border guard academy. The Kazakhstan border guard academy is here in Almaty. This is where your government trains border guard agents, and we actually, through some of our U.S. government programs, have funded a number of training programs, and we are actually constructing a couple of buildings to enhance and build upon the facility to make it a regional training center. And so I grew up in Los Angeles, which is about 2 hours north of the border with Mexico, and so border security is extremely important, and it's complicated. Our border with Canada and Mexico are very different, but before 9/11, our border with Canada was open. You could drive to Canada with your driver's license. Now you need your passport. It's a much more formal process going to and from Canada. But we share a long border with Mexico and Canada. We have extremely important economic ties with both countries. And these ties are not only important to the United States, but they're important to Mexico and to Canada. And so it's important with border issues that we work closely with all of the countries, and we work closely with our counterparts in Mexico and in Canada. There are a lot of ways to protect the border. I will say that the border with Mexico is a very complicated border because, like where I grew up, San Diego borders the Mexican city of Tijuana. So you have two cities that are, like right next to each other. And there's a lot of cooperation between those cities. So it's interesting. You have people from Mexico who, work in the United States. They have work visas. They come and go back and forth. And so our policy is to, facilitate legitimate travel and tourism between countries, not illegal immigration. But there are parts of the border that are in very remote areas that are really tough to patrol, and our border guard agents face a lot of challenges. One of my colleagues in Nur-Sultan used to be a border guard agent, and he worked on the border with Mexico. So that's a very, very good question. It's a complicated issue. It's also there are a lot of differing opinions, in the United States about how to protect the border. But I'm glad you asked that, because I otherwise would not have been able to mention our support for your Border Guard Academy, because if you'll allow me just to elaborate a little further, as we're in the 30th year of Kazakhstan's independence, and this is a really exciting time for me to work here as a diplomat. And as I said earlier in my speech, keep an eye out for activities that highlight our relationship. But one of the first things when we recognized Kazakhstan's independence is ensuring that Kazakhstan is a sovereign and independent country, and that includes the territorial integrity of the country and its borders. And so, borders are very important. So thank you for asking that question.
Thank you very much for your answer.
Yeah. Yeah, please go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Dastan.
Yes.
Уважаемый генеральный консул, господин Эрик Майер, разрешите вам задать вопрос от редакции научного журнала «Вестника. Международная жизнь и политика», который выпускается в нашем университете, в Институте Казахстана, Казахстана. Скажите, пожалуйста, вы дипломат с большим опытом работы. Вы очень интересный человек. Сегодня такая встреча для нас важная. Наши студенты, наш преподавательский состав нашего вуза Института закона Казахстана. Радуемся, что вы наш гость. Вопрос такой.
Шнара Алимхановна, можно погромче?
Ваш жизненный девиз, кредо. Ваш жизненный девиз, кредо.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So I will answer that question, and then I think there was someone else we'll do another final question, and then I would love to take a selfie with all of you. So we'll need to get a phone and do a quick screen selfie. So my in terms of I have different role models. Some personal. Professional role models at the State Department that I look up to, individuals whose careers I've respected and have respected the way that they've been leaders and managers. But I, on a personal level, going back to, this is related to an earlier question about how I became interested in foreign affairs. My grandfather, my father's father, was someone who was very interested in history, and through his work, he actually got to travel a bit around the world. And I remember as a young child sitting with him and looking at the atlas of the world, and he talked a lot about different countries and even places that he hadn't been. And although he wasn't a diplomat, through the work that he was doing, he was interacting with different cultures and countries. And so he was really, I think, the first inspiration for me to become very curious about the world and just how big the world is and how diverse the world is. But I obviously look up to my parents as well. They've been great role models for me, and I say that because, and now I'm the father of, two young daughters, 8 and 9, who are, at this point are not thinking about what they want to be really so much. They're focused on their studies. But I think as a parent, my parents really encouraged me to pursue my own path, and there wasn't pressure to sort of be in the same line of work as my father, and so I think helping support me and pursuing my own path was very much appreciated. Thank you for that. I think there was one more question that yes, and then
Final question, please. Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Dastan. At first question is going to be, what type of work did you have before?
I'm glad you asked that, because I'll get to talk about something that I'm equally passionate about, which is civil aviation. So, when I looked at maps and atlases with my grandfather, I became interested in the airline industry. And I used to love to look at, I know you all wouldn't remember this, I don't think, but airlines used to publish like timetables, and in the timetables were route maps of countries that they flew. And, I would look at, Air France's route map, to Africa and the world. And I became really interested in the airline industry because, in a way, the airline industry is, related to diplomacy, in that it's an industry that connects people and countries, and plays a really important role in connecting people and countries. And this is obviously, civil aviation really started to grow, obviously, in the 50s and 60s. And now we're at a time, although the airline industry is very much affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, it's still a key way to bridge cultures. So I worked in the airline industry for 5 years before I became a diplomat. I worked in marketing and in other capacities for one of the largest airlines, United Airlines, in the U.S. This was a time when United was signing strategic partnerships with different airlines, the Star Alliance, and so it's a fascinating industry. I still follow it very closely, and Almaty in that regard plays an important role, I think, for Kazakhstan, in that you have many airlines that are operating and are based in southern Kazakhstan. Skat Airlines is based in Shymkent. Air Astana, of course, has its hub in Almaty. And so these airlines, in their own way, do a unique job of bringing people to Kazakhstan. And I'm very hopeful and excited for the future of Almaty as a hub. I know there are plans to develop the airport even more, and I look forward to that, because civil aviation, I think, is a very important industry. And actually, here in Kazakhstan, like the United States, I mean, aside from connecting other countries, this is a huge country. I mean, you can take the train and you can take the bus, but being able to fly from Almaty to Karaganda or Adarau, I mean, these are great distances. So civil aviation also plays a key role in uniting Kazakhstan in a way. Thank you for that.
Thanks for your answer. And my second question is going to be spontaneous question, because you said about Fukuyama. And then I wanted to ask you about the Death of the West by Buchanan. Did you know it?
James Buchanan?
Yeah, no, Pat.
Oh, Pat Buchanan. Well,
Patrick
Buchanan, sure.
Yeah. And what's your opinion on this book?
Yeah, I have not read that book yet, but you know, Patrick Buchanan is a very important voice in conservative politics. And one thing that I will say, and this is not just you know, working as a diplomat, but it's extremely important to read a diverse views from different authors. You know, we have many publications in the United States, you know, some that are, you know, left of center, right of center. I try to read many of them when I have time, because it's important, again, to understand what is important to the American people and what they are writing about and thinking. And so you don't do yourselves any favor if you only read, you know, one viewpoint or your viewpoint. I think it's important, and that's general advice for all of you, to read, you know, a wide range of authors and viewpoints. I want to take this opportunity to again thank all of you for inviting me to join.
Hello. May
yes?
I ask you one question, please? One question.
Okay, this is the last question. Okay,
Yes,
last question.
Thank
Okay,
you.
sure.
Which advice would you give to international lawyer?
Sorry? Lawyer. Oh, are you studying? Are you studying to be a lawyer? Is that right?
Yeah, I'm student of international lawyer.
Well, you know, I think, as I said, there are some of my colleagues who used to practice law and then became diplomats. There are a lot of different legal systems, even in our United States. We have a lot of differences in our state legal systems, which is why in the United States, when you want to become a lawyer, you're kind of accredited, if you will, by state. So if you become a lawyer in California, you cannot practice law in New York unless you know you have kind of like a certificate. We say you passed the bar for that state. So I think as an international lawyer, you know, again, learning about different you know, legal systems around the world would be important. You know, reading about the international courts that are in The Hague, for example, understanding how they operate, and you know, if you're becoming a lawyer, you know, try it out, see how it is, and see if you enjoy it. But I think having a legal background is really important, because you get an understanding of the functioning of society, not only the legal system, but how the society functions. And I think that gives you a good background for many different professions, even business, but also diplomacy. So can I use the phone? I want to do a quick selfie with you all. If you can just stay where you are, I'm going to take the phone and do this.
Yes, please open the video, please.
No, you can keep your video on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm going to do this.
Open the video, please.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Listen, I want to thank the university for hosting me. And again, Ainur for the invitation. I would be very glad to come back here at a future time to speak with you all, maybe even in person, which would be great. Technology has been on our side, and although it's much preferable to do things in person, I've been looking at all of you through the screen, and it's great meeting all of you. And I want to wish you all the best of luck in your studies. Please stay in touch with us. Again, follow our social media at USCG Almaty, and keep up the great work that you are doing. I know we're in challenging times now, and we will get through this, but this was a wonderful discussion. You all asked really excellent questions, many of which I was not expecting, which is always fun. So thank you for your great questions too.
Thank you so much, General Counsel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and sharing your time with us. And it was very informative, very interesting meeting, and it was useful for our students. Thank you very much once again.
Well, thank you very much again for the invitation. And I wish you all the best and look forward to seeing you soon, hopefully in person. Thank you again, and all the best.
Айнур Алимхановна.
Mr. General Counsel, thank you so much for your time. This is Ainur. So, and I'm very appreciated from me and from my colleagues from French side, from Monsieur Gilles Mamets and Madame Christine Boutier. Gilles, unfortunately, couldn't be here with us today because he has a really official some meetings with the Monsieur General Counsel and Madame Christine Boutier also. But anyway, this meeting, I mean, not meeting, this guest lecture right now is translating by the through YouTube channel. So, and my colleagues from the French side also, they're writing to me. I know it's a very great pleasure that here from American diplomat master in French language at such high level. So, and merci. For this, and then actually this guest lecture is considered to the diplomatic club of our Institute Sorbonne, Kazakhstan. And before it was a lecture of the General Counsel from the Monsieur, I know that he is your friend, Monsieur Alexis Shachtatinsky. It was a really huge meeting also and very interesting. But today this lecture was very interesting, very productive. You know that our students, they have so many questions. So, and you promised to us that you will send to us some information about the skills of diplomatic and all this literature also. It would be very useful for our students. And today, before this lecture, it was a really important meeting with you, Monsieur, and with our rector. Yeah, so, and thank you for your time. Thank you for interesting lecture. And I hope that next time you will come when it would be, when the pandemic would be done. I hope so. Everyone will hope. And of course, today in our platform attend not only the students from our Institute Sorbonne, Kazakhstan, but the students from the another institutes. And I'm very grateful for that student also. It's the students from the Geography Institute, Philological Institute, and then from the Pedagogical Institute. So thank you for everyone. And I hope that next meeting with you, Monsieur, it would be very soon. Thank you for everyone. So, and see you.
Thank you again, and good health. Good health to all of you too. Stay well and healthy. Thank you again, Ainur, and thank you. Have a great day. Thank you. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Ребята, всем большое спасибо. Все, выходим. Следующее заседание дипломатического клуба будет согласно графику. До свидания.
Спасибо большое.
Спасибо, до
До
свидания.
свидания.
Спасибо, до свидания.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All the best. Take care. Yeah.
You want very much.
Yeah, come on up. Yeah.
Goodbye.